Look at this machine. It doesn't look like an airplane. It looks like a rocket ship designed by a supercar company. This is the Piaggio Avanti, the bullet-shaped masterpiece that most pilots are afraid to fly. It is the fastest turboprop in the world, capable of outrunning executive jets while burning half the fuel. It has wings on its nose, engines that face the wrong way, and a sound so high-pitched it has been compared to fingernails on a chalkboard. Behind the beautiful Italian lines is a dark reputation. Pilots whisper about terrifying approach speeds and a mechanical complexity that has led to catastrophic maintenance failures. While the rich and famous love the flying Ferrari for its status, the guys in the cockpit know that this bullet-shaped dream does not forgive mistakes. There is a hidden history of loose bolts and missing flight controls that once brought down an entire airline. Is the Avanti a stroke of genius, or is it a high-speed trap hiding in plain sight? In 1981, Italian engineers began a project that would challenge the conventions of business aviation. Their goal, a plane as fast as a jet, but with the efficiency of a turboprop. The result was the Avanti, a design that looked more like a dart than a traditional aircraft. At its heart was a concept that defied standard thinking, a three-surface lift-sharing configuration. This was not a canard nor a delta, but a system where three distinct surfaces each played a role in carrying the aerodynamic load. The Avanti's signature starts with its foreplane, a small forward wing often mistaken for a canard. Unlike a true canard, this surface does not shoulder the main lifting burden. Instead, it is precisely sized and angled to trim the aircraft, easing the load on the main wing. This allowed the engineers to make the main wing thinner and move it further back, cutting through the air with less resistance. The main wing, now liberated from providing all the lift and pitch control, became a high aspect ratio blade, sharper and lighter than its competitors. The T-tail at the rear completes the trio, balancing pitch and stabilizing the streamlined fuselage at high speeds. Wind tunnel tests at the Italian Aeronautical Research Center revealed how the lift is distributed. During takeoff, the foreplane carries about 15% of the load, the main wing 70%, and the T-tail 15%. As the Avanti climbs, the foreplane's share drops to 8%, the main wing rises to 80%, and the tailplane handles the remaining 12%. This careful allocation means the main wing can always operate at its most efficient angle, while the foreplane trims away excess drag. The result? A certified cruise speed of 420 knots and fuel consumption about 12% lower than the King Air twins it was built to surpass. This was not just theory. The three-surface arrangement was patented as United States Patent Number 4746081 by Rinaldo Piaggio. Patent drawings detail how each surface is sized, angled, and positioned to optimize lift and pitch stability, all while keeping the cabin open and unobstructed. The foreplane's flaps deploy in harmony with the main wings, maintaining perfect trim as the center of gravity shifts during flight. This is not a classic canard, it is a load-sharing system that lets the Avanti cut through the sky with the drag profile of a much smaller aircraft. Chief aerodynamicist Carlo Felice captured the philosophy with a simple rule. He said, "If you want to go fast, you must first learn how to share the burden of lift." His words still shape every technical report and patent drawing. The three-surface concept is the quiet force behind the Avanti's performance, a technical foundation that would later reveal new challenges, but in these early years inspired a sense of forensic awe. A Piaggio Avanti at full power is not just another aircraft leaving the ground, it is an acoustic event. The moment those six-bladed pusher propellers spin up behind the wing, the air fills with a sound that has become infamous among airport managers and neighbors alike. It is not the sheer volume that sets the Avanti apart. On paper, the sideline takeoff noise measures 81.9 dBA, barely a decibel lower than a King Air. But decibels do not tell the whole story. What matters is the pitch. The Avanti's signature is a piercing, narrow-band whine, peaking between 1,000 and 2,000 Hz, right in the zone where the human ear is most sensitive. That tone is born from the collision of physics and design. The pusher configuration means the propellers sit directly in the path of the engine's hot, turbulent exhaust. Every time a blade slices through that jet, it sets off a sharp pressure spike, a blade pass event, repeating nearly 200 times per second at cruise RPM. The result is a harmonic stack, the blade pass frequency and its overtones amplified by the exhaust's heat and speed radiate backward in a focused beam. The effect is not unlike an air raid siren, but with a surgical edge. Acoustic researchers have mapped the Avanti's spectrogram. The main spike at 200 Hz is just the beginning. As power increases, higher harmonics light up the spectrum, with a second peak around 1.2 kHz. This is where psychoacoustics comes into play. The human brain interprets narrowband, high-frequency tones as more annoying, even at lower overall loudness, than the broadband roar of a typical turboprop. In field tests, the Avanti's 1 to 2 kHz peak consistently triggers higher annoyance scores than aircraft with louder but less tonal signatures. Communities near regional airports have noticed. Formal complaints often cite a continuous, high-pitched scream that cuts through double-glazed windows and lingers long after the aircraft has departed. At Genoa Cristoforo Colombo, airport noise monitors flagged the Avanti's tonal peak as the primary driver behind a new curfew policy. In the US, several regional airports have adopted operational curfews for aircraft that exceed 80 dBA at 150 meters from the runway. But enforcement is less about total volume and more about the character of the sound. As one noise manager put it is not how loud the Avanti is, it is the frequency. That scream travels. It is the one plane neighbors can identify with their eyes closed. The engineering that created the Avanti's supersonic needle silhouette also shaped its social fate. The placement of the engines and the interaction of exhaust and propeller were never just technical choices, they became a constraint, echoing in community meetings and airport boardrooms. This is the cost of the aviation siren, a masterpiece of efficiency, forever shadowed by the physics of its own voice. Wing loading is the cold arithmetic of flight, weight divided by wing area, the number that decides how much air each square foot of wing must lift. For the Avanti, the equation is as unforgiving as a forensic audit. Maximum takeoff weight is 13,500 pounds. Wing area is 317 square feet. The result, 42.6 pounds per square foot, puts the Avanti in rare company, closer to light jets than to the turboprops it claims to outpace. By comparison, a King Air 350 spreads its weight over 310 square feet, yielding about 39 pounds per square foot. The Citation CJ2, a jet, sits around 63. The Avanti's number is a deliberate engineering choice, not an accident. High wing loading means the airframe must move faster to generate enough lift for takeoff and landing. There is no cheating the physics. At slow speeds, heavy wings stall sooner. The Avanti's main wing is a slender blade, optimized for high-speed cruise, not for floating on approach. The penalty arrives at the runway threshold, the stall speed rises, and so does the rotation speed. The pilot's operating handbook lists a rotation speed called VR of 92 knots for a typical takeoff weight, climbing to 98 knots at maximum. For pilots used to the gentle 80-knot rotation of a King Air, this feels abrupt, almost aggressive. The wing will not fly until the needle sweeps past a hard number, and the margin between stall and rotation is razor thin. This is not a theoretical risk. The Avanti's approach speeds are higher too, often over 110 knots on short final, with the main wing demanding respect all the way to the ground. The sensation in the cockpit is clinical, almost surgical. There is no cushion of low-speed lift, no forgiving float. The numbers are exacting because the wing loading is exacting. Every knot below the book value is a step toward aerodynamic betrayal. The designers knew what they were doing. By pushing the wing loading up, they bought a thinner wing, less drag, and the supersonic needle silhouette that defines the Avanti. But the price is paid in speed that pilots must manage with discipline, not bravado. The aircraft will not forgive a lazy rotation or a slow approach. The data is the law, and the law is written in pounds per square foot, 42.6, every time the Avanti leaves the ground. Throttle back to 110 knots on final approach, and the Avanti's cockpit becomes a pressure chamber. The numbers on the airspeed tape aren't suggestions, they are the edge of the envelope. There is no float, no cushion. The main wing, built for slicing at 400 knots, refuses to give the pilot a break when it is time to land. At this speed, the difference between a smooth touchdown and a runway overrun can be measured in feet and heartbeats. A type-rated captain, hands steady but voice tight, described it simply. You fly the book speeds. Anything less, and the wing will remind you who is in charge. He is not exaggerating. The approach speed, often 110 knots or more at typical landing weights, leaves little room for improvisation. The flare, normally a forgiving moment in a King Air or a citation, becomes a high-stakes maneuver. The Avanti's slender wing, loaded to 42 pounds per square foot, will not tolerate a lazy pitch or a late pull. Drop below the target speed and the lift vanishes. Drift above and the aircraft floats, eating up precious runway. There are no gentle corrections, the window is narrow, and the consequences are immediate. Pilots accustomed to forgiving airframes find their workload spiking in the Avanti. Every approach is a test of discipline. The aircraft demands precise trim, coordinated power, and a flare timed to the second. The margin for error shrinks, especially on shorter runways or in gusty crosswinds. There is a reason most operators assign 2 pilots, even though the Avanti is certified for single crew. The workload is not just physical, it is psychological. The cockpit feels like a laboratory, not a lounge. Every landing is a performance, and the penalty for improvisation is written in the accident reports. The sensation of speed never leaves. Even as the wheels touch down, the ghostly scream of the pusher props lingers in the cabin. The Avanti's bullet-shaped body and high wing loading by efficiency and speed, but the price is paid in workload and risk. Behind the elegant lines, the aircraft's demands are absolute. The approach is a contract, precision or nothing. April 2006, St. Petersburg, Florida. The Piaggio Avanti, tail number N180AE, lines up for takeoff. Seconds later, the control column slackens. The left elevator is gone, ripped from the tail in an instant. The aircraft pitches down, unrecoverable, and crashes onto the runway. Wreckage litters the tarmac, but the real clue lies at the hinge line. Investigators recover the elevator's attachment bolt from the debris. It is fractured at the threads, its surface polished by weeks of micro-movement. Metallurgists trace the failure to a single cause: a bolt left finger tight, never torqued to the required 120 Newton-meters. Maintenance logs show a check mark, but there is no torque wrench reading. Piaggio's service bulletin SB P.180-0203 had called for a calibrated wrench, a witness signature, and a yellow torque stripe. None were present. Mechanics testify without hesitation. One admits to trusting feel instead of the wrench's click. Another describes the cramped tail where the Avanti's pusher design and 3-surface layout make every bolt a struggle. The hinge bolt, hidden behind hydraulic lines and control cables, is easy to reach but hard to see. In this case, the bolt worked loose, vibrating under the Avanti's eerie whine until cyclic stress cracked the threads. The loss of preload allowed the bolt to migrate. Each control input turned the hinge line into a fatigue test. On the final maneuver, the bolt sheared. The elevator detached. Pitch control vanished. The result was as final as a bullet leaving a barrel. The NTSB's verdict is blunt. Improper torque verification led directly to catastrophic loss of control. The report lists preventable steps, torque stripe paint, serial number bolt logs, mandatory rechecks every 30 days. The FAA issues Airworthiness Directive 2007-23-06, ordering every Avanti operator to inspect, retorque, and log each elevator hinge bolt. Piaggio mandates a physical torque tag and a mechanic's signature in the maintenance log. The Avanti scandal runs deeper. FAA audits reveal a pattern: hydraulic leaks, missing fasteners, maintenance shortcuts under pressure. Bolts meant for precise torque are found finger-tight or replaced with hardware store washers. Mechanics blame parts shortages and poor documentation, but the evidence is clear. In the Avanti, every bolt is a lifeline. Every shortcut is a loaded chamber. The lesson is stark. The Avanti's safety depends on the torque of its smallest bolt. Control loss was not fate, it was written in the maintenance record, one unchecked fastener at a time. No one gets to fly the supersonic needle on charm alone. The Avanti's record is a forensic ledger, every page written in torque values, audit trails, and logged training hours. The evidence is not subtle. Operators who treat the Avanti like a King Air or Citation quickly discover the price of improvisation, high-speed approaches with no margin, a maintenance regime that brooks no shortcuts, and a cockpit workload that punishes the unprepared. The rulebook for safe Avanti operation is short but absolute. First, every pilot must complete type-specific simulator training at least once every 6 months. This is not a formality. The Level D simulators, built from accident reconstruction data, force pilots to practice high-speed rotations, elevator failure drills, and the unique trim responses of the 3-surface layout. The Avanti's high wing loading and narrow speed margins mean muscle memory is not enough. Only disciplined, recurrent practice keeps the aircraft within its envelope. Discipline is essential. Second, every maintenance event must be logged with a serial numbered audit trail. The elevator hinge bolts, torqued to exactly 120 Newton-meters, require a witness signature, a physical torque tag, and a yellow torque stripe. No bolt gets checked off by feel, and no fastener escapes the logbook. Piaggio's post-Avanti service bulletins mandate a visual and tactile inspection of every primary flight control linkage every 30 days, with the mechanic's name and license number inked next to each entry. Operators who cut corners or lose paperwork are flagged at audit and risk immediate grounding. Third, all Avanti maintenance must be performed by an MRO facility with explicit Piaggio qualification. The aircraft's pusher configuration, hydraulic routing, and control cable geometry are not generic. They demand mechanics with type-specific training and access to the latest service bulletins. Unapproved substitutions, whether for a bolt, a washer, or a hydraulic fitting, have no place. The Federal Aviation Administration's Airworthiness Directive, number 2007-2306, makes this non-negotiable: inspect, retorque, and document, or the aircraft stays on the ground. The operational verdict is clear. The Avanti rewards precision and punishes laxity. Fly by the book, maintain by the checklist, and audit every bolt. Anything less, and the bullet becomes a liability, not a masterpiece. Today, the Avanti's supersonic needle still carves through the sky, its ghostly scream echoing across runways that sometimes refuse its landing. Every unsolved anomaly, every torque mark left unchecked, is a reminder. RT does not overrule physics, and beauty cannot quiet a siren. In aviation, truth survives not in glamour, but in the logbooks. Share your perspective below if you have encountered the Avanti's mysteries firsthand.